I'm Jonny Smith.
I'm Richard Porter.
And this is Smith & Sniff, a podcast in which two friends talk about cars and many other things. I'm not 100% certain, but I think the Incredible Hulk drives a Urus.
Right.
I have a small amount of evidence for this.
You have a small amount of evidence that the real-life person, the Incredible Hulk...
Yes.
...drives a Urus.
Yes.
Is it because he's muscular and a bit of an arsehole?
No, I knew you'd think that, and that's totally logical for you thinking that. But it's because I was recently in Florida on holiday, as you know, with my kids, taking them for their first American experience. And we did do Universal Studios theme parks. And I've got lots of observations, but I'm just going to start with... I'm just going to start with the fact that the Incredible Hulk roller coaster ride. So look, I'm not interested in the Incredible Hulk. Okay, I always thought he's just a bit of a dick and not cool. But the ride is phenomenal, and the front of the roller coaster, I think, is styled like with Lamborghini Urus design language.
Oh, I
did take a picture of myself with the front of the roller coaster, so in case the listeners wanted to have a look, if you're a Patreon subscriber, we'll
yeah.
So I'm wondering whether or not the creators of Hulk or the ride or Hulk and the ride decided, do you know what, this needs to look a little bit Lamborghini-ish.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say Urus is because the Hulk wouldn't fit in any other Lamborghini, I don't think.
Oh, I see, yes.
Because he just wouldn't, would he? His shoulders and his back wouldn't get into an Aventador.
I mean, would he even fit in a Urus?
No, probably not.
He's a big lad.
He'd make, do you know what, like a totally tasteless Arab Emirates kind of dude. He'd just commission a Targa-roofed or convertible Urus, which everyone would just throw up in their mouth looking at. Because it would be Hulk green, of course. And I do like green, but Hulk green is a bit much.
Also, Hulk green is kind of Lamborghini green, isn't it, I suppose?
Well, it sort of is. And maybe I do like that. But in combination with denim cutoffs and no shirt, not sure it's a look for me.
I sort of like the original Hulk series because it had this incredible sadness to it.
Yes, there was a sadness to it.
This poor guy cursed with this strange ability to turn into a monster he didn't like or want. And the worst of that, as a kid, the bit that I always used to get troubled by was when the Hulk turned back into... was he called? Dr. Eric Banner? Was that right? No, hang on. Eric Banner's the actor. Bruce Banner. And he would then find himself sort of just like lying in a lay-by with all his clothes ruined. And he'd sort of come round and go, oh, shit, what have I done now? But more than that, all his clothes are completely ruined. And he's just got to...
Do you know what he did?
Walk home.
He was on the way back from a club with his mates. And he started bubbling like he was going to have a chunder. And his mate screeched to a halt. The designated driver said, "Get out now. This is my dad's car. Get out."
Yes.
He got out.
Before you become massive, you tear the roof off my dad's Camry.
Yeah, he got out and he chundered everywhere because he was battered. They'd been to the club, been doing Bacardi. And then before he had a chance to wipe his chin and say, "All right, guys, I'm all right. I'm ready," they just driven off. They just left him. So he was a bit pissed and tired. So he just fell asleep in a lay-by and then changed back. Right. Like I say, just has...
hang on, so what made him angry was being binned off by his mates, but then he was also too drunk and tired to do anything with the anger. So the Hulk just sat in a lay-by, he just nodded off, as he slept, turned back into Dr. Bruce Banner, and then it's just Dr. Bruce Banner's in a lay-by, but now all his clothes are fucked
with denim cut-offs and no top.
That's the worst thing. He's like, oh no, all my clothes are ruined, but I'm now wearing denim cut-offs again.
It just looks like a stag do gone completely wrong.
Extremely unflattering. What am I going to do?
So the Hulk ride was really good. A great coaster. Big fan of roller coasters.
Okay.
And so I enjoyed that one very much. And while I was in that area, because of course there's two main theme parks at Universal Studios. One's called Adventure Island and one's called Universal Studios. And while we were in the Marvel bit, of course you've got all the other Marvel people. One ride that my kids really wanted to go on, but it was actually the only ride that was closed, was The Amazing Adventures of Spiderman.
Okay.
And I've got a bone to pick with Spiderman.
Right.
Because, do you know why, Rich?
Not.
Do you know why?
No. Please tell me why you have a bone to pick with fictional superhero Spider-Man.
I'll tell you why. I'll be the judge of whether your adventures are amazing, not you.
Right.
That's why.
Okay, no, that's fair enough.
Do you know what? Because I bet Spider-Man's adventures aren't always amazing. Hi, Spider-Man. What is it now? Oh, it's 20 to 11. Why are you in work so late? Well, A421 had massive delays on it. Got up late. Dishwasher had stopped working. Opened the fridge. The milk was off. Oh, and my car's had another dash light flash up, so I've got to take it in for a bloody recall. In fact, this is not fun at all. Okay. So would you call today an amazing adventure, would you?
It's the mediocre adventures of Spider-Man.
Exactly.
I had to, it was really annoying. So I had this rash that the doctor thinks is something to do with being bitten by a spider. But anyway, I had to go get this cream. I went to the chemist. They didn't have it. They've got to order it in. So that was yesterday. I had to go back today and just get it. While I was there, I remembered that I've also got to go to the post office because I've got to get an international driving license because I'm going to solve some crimes abroad.
Awful.
So it just took forever.
And also, it was a cashless pay and display where you need a stupid app in order to pay and display your car. And I didn't have my phone on me because I'm wearing a skin suit and there's nowhere to put the phone.
I had a pocket put into it. It looks awful putting a phone in there. It's really unflattering, so I don't do it.
Yeah, so now I've got 60 quid of car parking fees to pay because I hadn't downloaded the stupid app because I didn't take my phone. So actually, do you know what? Not amazing. Substandard adventure of Spider-Man this Tuesday. Yeah.
The uninteresting adventures of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's discovered that his shower is causing a leak through the ceiling into his hallway.
Awful.
And he's got to get a plumber out. But it's so hard to find someone you trust these days, isn't it? So Spider-Man's WhatsApping his neighbourhood group to ask if anyone's got any plumber recommendations.
Yeah.
And then somebody replies with a complaint about how his hedge is overgrown. And Spider-Man's really pissed off about this because it's not relevant to what he's asking. Although he admits he does need to do his hedge. And he mentally notes that at the weekend he will cut his hedge.
Hi, Spidey.
In the uninteresting adventures of Spider-Man.
Spidey, I know you're busy, but your conifer is out of control. Can you sort it, please?
it's
casting a massive shadow into my garden.
Yes, that's it. Spider-Man's neighbour has complained that he's blocking the light into their kitchen with his huge conifers.
Ridiculous.
The uninteresting adventures of Spider-Man continue.
Exactly.
Well, you'll never find either way if it was closed whether it was amazing. Were amazing or not.
That's true, actually.
I mean, they could be amazing, but in really mundane ways. Like Spider-Man has lent his house keys to a mate who just needed somewhere to crash. He sees his mate. He goes, "Have you got my spare house keys?" The bloke is about 5 or 6 meters away, throws badly the keys to Spider-Man, but somehow he catches them. And then he causes his mate to go, "Oh, catch," in that way that people do.
But Spider-Man has to, even if the throw was wildly out of target.
Oh, it's
Spider-Man would just he'd flick his wrist like that, the way he does, and some web would come out, and then sticky web would capture the keys. If he says, "Hey, Spidey, I've heard you're having shit car problems. Here, have my." Like, say, Camry. "Oh, cheers, man, thanks, because I've got to go and get an international driving license." He flicks his wrist as the Camry keys are in the air, draws the keys back into his hands, clutching them. I think
But hang on.
That is impressive.
No, but wait, because as anyone who's ever got a big cobweb on themselves knows, then you're sort of picking bits of cobweb off yourself for ages. So presumably the Camry keys, Spider-Man's then got to, he can't rinse them because they've got a battery inside.
Yeah, true.
So he's got to sort of keep wiping them with kitchen paper, and he still can't get all the web shit off them. So he's not done himself any favours there, I would say.
Oh, he's probably got a little sleeve of wet wipes. A really tiny little discreet sleeve of wet wipes.
But again, he's got a bodysuit. So where's he keeping the wet wipes? Unless he's got a rucksack. Does Spider-Man ever have a rucksack? Like just a really cheap one that he got from Sports Direct?
No, like a Louis Vuitton bum bag that he wears across, like a bandolier.
No, I think a bum bag, a fanny pack, as he would probably call it.
Of course.
Maybe he's had it made in Spider-Man fabric, so it matches, but it does look like he's got some kind of hideous goiter on his back that he can't get rid of. But it's useful for keeping his wet wipes in it.
Yeah, and his car keys and all the things he needs, because there's nothing worse than having an amazing adventure and then realising you've got back to your car and you haven't got your fucking keys because they fell down a drain while you were punching, a big octopus or something.
Does he punch people?
Spider-Man? I reckon. He fires webs and swings them around. Lassos.
He's quite wispy, is he not? He's quite a jockey build. He's not like Superman where he's barrel-chested and big.
No, he's a gymnast, really. Spider-Man. But Gymnast Man doesn't sound as good, so hence the term Spider-Man. I can't believe we're still talking about bloody Spider-Man.
Well, you started it.
I know.
I think you've raised a very good point. Are his adventures truly amazing? We'll never know.
No.
But they could, in fact, be quite ordinary. It's a gymnast in a bodysuit having some fairly normal things happen to him.
Quite. So, I'm not a big fan of apps, and Universal Studios don't have any maps. They only have apps. And that's pissed me off a little bit because, as people will know, going to a very loud, exciting, busy theme park is, it's pretty sapping on the energy, and it's a bombardment of the senses. I really wanted a map. I like a map. I wanted to know where we were and trying to get my head around where we should go next without constantly looking at my phone. But I couldn't because you needed an app. Right. And I found that to be very irritating. I got collared by somebody on the second day going through, the entry and the pat down for security. And they said, "Oh, we're just doing a quick survey for Universal. Do you mind me asking you 2 or 3 questions?" Well, I didn't really have a choice. And then they said, I answered the questions. Then they said, "Have you got any feedback for us?" I said, "Yeah. Where are your maps?" And he said, "Oh," his face actually dropped. I said, "Because you know what? I don't like apps." I said, "An app has to be really special in order for me to download it and keep it. And I don't want to download another app. I just want to walk into a theme park and see a nice big map, like you get in a shopping centre. And it says, you're here. If you turn left, you'll see the incredible Eurus. If you turn right, Spiderman will be having an average adventure. If you go further on, you'll see the Back to the Future DeLorean, and then you might see The Simpsons. Great. Okay. That's for how I want to live, in a theme park. Yeah. And he said, yeah, we actually discontinued them in January. I said, what, this year? So have I just missed the maps? He went, yeah. I said, is there no way you can get me a map? I mean, he obviously just looked at me like, oh, shit, I've got one here, haven't I? I said, could you just not get me a map? I said, I've paid a lot of money. I spent $1,000. I could do with a map, really. He said, look, if you go to the visitor centre, they might actually have one under one of the desks. So I said, okay, well, I'll go and have a look. I didn't, because the kids by that point were tugging on me going, Dad, just leave it. Please, Daddy, just leave it. So I left it. But what we did do, we then went into the Jurassic Park area, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
My kids did get a bit peed off with the fact that I was constantly singing the Jurassic Park theme tune, trying to go as higher and higher pitched as I could, depending on the level of excitement. It's a really good game. You should try it, Rich.
Yeah, I will.
But there's something called the Velocicoaster. And big queue, because this is a serious ride. Obviously a roller coaster. And what I thought was interesting was while we were in the queue, they have, you know, there's lots of entertaining set dressing and animatronics and stuff in the queues as you're waiting. And in this particular instance, it said on the wall here, Velociraptor literally means swift thief. Did you know that?
Oh, no.
It said on the information board, it said Velociraptor means swift thief. So I thought to myself, does it? So, okay, so does that mean that the Ford Raptor is the Ford thief? Is that what we're saying here? So Ford have actually
Ford thief.
Ford have actually called a pickup truck a thief.
Is it one of those things that works where, I suppose, because what does raptor mean in Latin? Here we go. Well, the word raptor comes from the Latin word rapere, or rapere, I don't know. Rapere, I suppose, which means to seize. So the Ford seizure.
The Ford seizure?
This is from the Hawk Conservation Trust, or Conservancy Trust. The word raptor is derived from the Latin word raptar, or rapto, which means to seize violently and drag away.
Oh my God.
The Ford seized violently and drag away.
So that all really interested me. But
good, yes, that's a good fact.
Yeah, and I had a great time, just so you know. I had a great time. And most of the rides were the best rides with the characters or franchises that I'm least interested in. Again, King Kong, not interested, just a giant ape, not just silly.
Well, yes, there's giants and he's frigging massive. I mean, he climbed the Empire State Building.
He apparently did. And there's a really good experiential ride. It's not a roller coaster. I guess it's like a very well-dressed ghost train. And but what's cool about King Kong, it's really good, I have to say, it's really good, I highly recommend it.
Yeah,
is that you instead of climbing into a carriage, you climb into an old school safari lorry,
right?
And then they put then they shut the doors on you, and the safari lorry is obviously on a track, and it's computer controlled and stuff, but there's a driver who's actually an animatronic person. You don't realise it at first, like a Jonny cab head that turns and chats to you. And the lorry, at first I thought, this is like a sort of those Leyland lorries that I've seen in India. But it's actually more of I think it's Soviet. I actually took a couple of pictures of it because I'm a nerd. And I wonder whether any listeners could identify what lorry this is based on. But So that was a great ride.
I wonder if they've had them built though, because if these things must be working all day, every day.
Hell yeah.
Like, was it on a track, or was it just running like kind of...
No, it was on a track, and it had sound effects like a lorry, so you had changing gear and everything, but it wasn't an engine. Right, so I suppose it is just so you could use old Russian trucks, and I was just thinking that reliability may be at issue if it's just these things are being worked hard, but if they're being dragged, perhaps that's not such a problem. Yeah, you could actually. They might have bought some Russian trucks. You're absolutely right. This is what I'm keen to know, really. Being a bit of a car perv, it struck a chord with me, and I thought that's great. I mean, obviously, the Incredible Hulk potentially driving a Lambo Urus, yeah. He looks more of a rolling coal Dodge Ram kind of guy, perhaps, but the ride definitely aped that of a Lambo Urus. The other thing I noticed on the Hulk ride, going back to that, is that when the roller coaster comes into the holding area where you change riders over, there's some wheels and tyres on the tracks that help to stop it and grip it in place. Yeah. And I noticed that they were from a transit van. What? Yeah, they're transit van wheels and tyres. Seriously? Yeah, I noticed. But presumably there'll be American spec tyres, so they'll be made of concrete and last 100,000 cycles of that roller coaster at least. They squeal horribly at low speed. Those tyres will still be on that ride in 2029. Having with no sign of wear whatsoever. No, they will have been used for 14 hours a day every day, and they'll still be just fine. So that was really good. So there were lots of things. Now I'll come back to them. You don't want to hear all about my American adventures, but did you? I was going to say, did you have a car while you were there? But I know you did, because you borrowed a Hyundai Santa Fe. Yes. Yeah, I did, and I know that you can get them in the UK, but I just haven't had a chance to drive the Santa Fe yet. So I borrowed a Santa Fe, and I loved it. I really, really loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Those who might not have seen it, Hyundai are actually bucking the trend, I think, in terms of design compared to a lot of other car makers, because they're going for the box again. They're going for the interesting... quirky box, aren't they? Yes. Origami-esque. And the Santa Fe has a completely vertical back end. It's almost like a Discovery. I suppose it's like a Discovery 3 or 4 combined with a Ford Fusion. That's the way I would want to put it. And you can get it as a mild hybrid or a PHEV plug-in. And it's a 7-seater. But it's bloody great. It was so good. All inside the controls are quite familiar, like other Hyundais that you might have driven, like Ioniq 5s and all that kind of thing. Same screen layout. Pretty tasteful. But it just felt so good. It felt really well put together. Good, that balance of touchscreen and actual button. Quiet. Visibility was really good. The 7 seats were actually usable at the back. Yeah, and I just really liked it. I thought, yeah, this is cool. And you look at it and you go, it does look like a brick. A few people said to me it's like a pixelated brick. And I went, it does look like a pixelated brick. And I like that. You'd think it actually would be really inefficient in terms of aero. But it's got a good drag coefficient. And I don't know how they've managed to do that. It's like 0.29 CD. Really? Yeah, it really is. But you look at it, you think I was lying. Well, I suppose the CD's one thing. I bet the frontal area is still a bit chunky, but yeah, I suppose the CD, with sort of careful attention to detail, it could be quite smooth. Yeah, in a way that cars. Interesting. Good. Yeah, yes, yeah. I'm quite interested in that new Insta, that new little electric Hyundai, which I just was reading the reviews of last week, and it sounds I'm looking like forward to that. Pretty good. Yeah. I just sort of thinking, one of those instead when we replace our E-up might be Insta's. I think Insta's going to be good. But also, while I was in the States, I didn't see it or anything. I just know, because I know that people tune into this podcast for car news, Rich. So I thought I'd mention that that's not funny. It's not supposed to be funny.
Sorry.
There was news was revealed of the International Scout making a comeback.
Oh, yes.
With Rivian DNA but being owned by Volkswagen, the international name.
Yes, Volkswagen. They didn't buy the Scout. The Scout was the model, wasn't it? International Harvester.
That's right.
The company.
IH. Yeah.
Make farm equipment.
Yeah.
And weirdly, I think they used to make fridges as well for some reason. But they used to.
So did General Motors.
Yes, they did, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
So did British Leyland. Yeah. So I suppose it was just a thing that big corporations used to do. Screw it, we'll do fridges as well. The one that always confused me is General Electric.
Yes.
Because they're an enormous corporation, but they make fridges and microwaves and stuff like that, but also jet engines. Your business model appears quite diffuse, but that's fine. You do you.
It does, doesn't it?
But so VW bought something else that came with International Harvester, I think.
Well, they own a good stake in Rivian, don't they?
Yeah.
Or
they are paying Rivian. Also, they bought. Just looked this up. They bought Navistar for $3.7 billion in 2021.
Navistar sounds like an average Nissan that nobody really remembers.
I feel like it wasn't an average Nissan, was it not?
Well, is that what they bought then? They spent $1 billion odd on an average old Nissan. Let me look at it. Was it Navistar?
It's International Trucks, isn't it? Is what they were buying. But they ended up.
Hang on, it was a Navistar Nissan.
Oh, there we go. So yeah, it seems like anyway, Volkswagen ended up with whether they wanted it or not, with the rights to the International Harvester name, and by extension Scout, which was the name on their SUV that they stopped selling the sort of start of the 80s. And it's back. And I saw that those two
it looks great.
Cars they've shown off, the SUV and the pickup, like the design is excellent, I think. It's sort of retro without being too retro. It's got just nods to the past.
It's brilliant. I think it looks brilliant. I'm really interested in it. Yeah.
But I looked at those and went, well, they don't look like concept cars. They look like production cars because they've got mirrors and sensibly sized wheels and all the rest of it. They're not sort of cartoonish. So I was assuming that they're going to be on sale like next year or something. But no, this is like they've announced them and then they're not on sale till 2027.
Well, it
feels like quite a long time.
Yeah, that's a shame.
I'm curious to see how they're going to maintain the momentum for the next 3 years. I mean, maybe it's going to be 27 Scout. It's 27 Scout. So maybe it'll be on sale in 2026. But that's still
it was on sale last year.
2 years,
yeah, because
which is a long time to keep people interested. It's like because I saw those and went, wow, yeah, amazing, and I gather they're taking orders, or at least you can express your interest. But yeah, that's
they look
a bit
great.
Of a wait.
And I know,
do, don't they?
Yeah, there's a pickup and a truck, the Traveller SUV and the Terra truck, and I think the more I like Rivian. I saw a few Rivians in the States, and I know they've been out for a few years now, but I still really like the Rivian. I love the engineering behind it, the thought process, and I've said this before. I think Rivian and the Ford F-150 Lightning are a better resolved product and genuinely more useful in my head, at least, than a Tesla Cybertruck. I just think, that if you've ever looked round a Rivian R1T, you'll go, if that had a Tesla badge on it, everyone would worship it. The fact that the Cybertruck looks the way it does, and I did see a few Cybertrucks, and my daughter just giggled at it. And do you know what she said? It was perfect. She said, do you know what? In 2 years' time, people are just going to look at that and laugh and go, that's ridiculous.
Yes.
And I said, why? She said, because it will be great for a really short amount of time. And then you'll go, why does it look like that? And you'll go, I don't know.
Can't remember.
Because the actual pick-uppy bit's not very impressive. So if you're buying the pickup and the pick-uppy bit's not very impressive, then why are you buying it? Anyway.
Anyway,
slight detour from the Scout. No, I'm down with the Scout.
Yeah.
I'm excited. And they've made, what's weird is, so VW sort of own a stake in it. And in all the press releasing from our American journalistic colleagues that I read about, they were making a big point about the fact that it has real physical buttons inside. So they're kind of keeping it simple and pleasantly analog, which is slightly ironic given how VW have shot themselves in the testicles with the haptic feedback and the absolute just toilet infotainment that they've had, which has definitely cost them sales.
I think, is it not what they are buying off Rivian is, electrical stuff. It's not sort of a platform share in the traditional sense. So I'm curious to know how much VW is in that Scout or will be in those cars compared to how much Rivian tech there is there. But I was looking at the pictures of the cars they've shown off, and I didn't see anything where you go, oh, right, that's a bit off a Passat.
No.
So I presume that's very deliberate. They don't want people to really know too much that it's VW, because I guess VW's reputation in the US is not what it once was between the diesel thing and then their sort of underwhelming EVs. And I seem like Americans are a bit peeved at the moment that the ID.Buzz has taken so long to arrive, and now it's quite expensive.
Yeah, it's true. It's a bit like when the Beetle was released, I feel, but a role reversal. So do you remember in the late 90s, it took forever for VW to bring the Beetle to the UK. And when they did, you had to buy a left-hand drive one.
Yes.
But people were so fed up with waiting and so keen that this thing was coming back. I know a few people that bought them. They paid a premium and they got left-hand drive. And and then, of course, we eventually got UK cars. But it's almost the Americans in this instance, who weirdly are the biggest market for buzzes, have had to wait the longest. And I don't know why. I don't know why they've done that, because it doesn't make any sense. Because I would have rolled that out earlier.
Is it because they were taking their time getting the long wheelbase one ready, and that's the one that's sold in the US? They don't do the shorter one because they assume that Americans all want the bigger with the 7 seats and what have you.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so.
I know that car building is a complicated business, but it is slightly perplexing why it would take so long for the long wheelbase to be ready. It is just the same, but a bit longer, and plenty of people launch things in 2 wheelbases from the get-go.
Yeah, I would have just launched it and just said, look, there is a longer one coming, but if you want to get there early, just have a go on this.
I suppose they just don't want word getting around that, how's your ID.Buzz? Oh, there's not enough room in it. And that's it. People aren't listening anymore when you go, no, we fixed that. It's okay. I don't know. But yeah, it's strange, isn't it? It took so long to get over there. I'm sure there is a perfectly good explanation for it, but they're just not telling us what it is.
I nearly bought an international travel-all once because it was very cheap, but I didn't.
Over here?
No, in the States, actually. While I was out there working, I got offered one, and it was very, very a clean, honest example of the mark. And I nearly pulled the trigger, but I didn't, because I realised I was already had too many vehicles to my name, and it would have been daft.
Fair enough. They're handsome machines, aren't they? They're
really cool. Very simple. Like if anyone's listening to this going, I don't know what an international Scout or travel-all is like. They're like the first-gen Broncos. But they lived in the shadow of the Broncos, because I think obviously Ford was better at promoting it and selling it than International were. But the other thing I want to talk about is American tailpipe direction. This is something that I feel quite strongly about, because I want someone to explain it to me. Okay? Right. On. I noticed. Right. So let me get this right. Americans drive on the right. Yeah? Left-hand drive car driving on the right.
Yes.
Right. So why do all the tailpipes of school buses, trucks, those pickups with just big dog's dick tailpipes, why do they all point out to the right? Which, last time I checked, if you're driving on the right, that's pointing directly at the pavement. Why would you do that?
Well, I'm going to take a little bit of a run-up at this and a swing, even though I may be wrong. But I think this works backwards from where your fuel filler is. Because traditionally, in Europe, our fuel filler was curbside in the car's country of origin.
Yes.
Because we used to get our fuel from a cheery man in a brown coat at the curb. There were no petrol stations. You just pulled in. So it made sense that you pulled in as you were driving along and there was the fuel filler, pop it in. So it's why German cars here always have their fuel filler on the driver's side for us, because actually that was the passenger side at home, so that was the curb side at home.
Yes.
Traditionally, British cars had it on the other side, and by extension, small Fords had it on that side, because small Fords were officially their home of developments here. So the current Fiesta, just gone, its fuel filler is on the passenger side in the UK, because it's built as if it's UK curbside. It's a hangover from years, decades and decades ago. The Americans deviate from this formula because they had a lot more room, a lot more quickly to build petrol stations. Americans prize convenience above all other things. They just want to get out and there's the fuel filler.
Right.
So they put the fuel filler on the driver's side, which is not the curb side for them. So that you when you get out your car, it's just there. You can fill up. You don't have to walk around your car, wasting precious calories. So that then, traditionally, cars have then put the exhaust on the opposite side of the fuel filler, I think, so that it avoids this possibility that you splash fuel on a hot exhaust.
Right, okay.
But that then, because Americans have decided to start putting the fuel filler away from the curb because it's by the driver for faster fill-ups, the exhaust then migrates to the curb side, and this has become entrenched in American vehicle design.
Yeah,
that's my theory.
Well, I wonder if this is true, and if this is true, it's amazing given that there's no effort, especially with big diesels, like huge Dodge Rams and all those sorts of things. The tailpipe doesn't point down. It does just point straight out at kind of shin/groin level if you're a pedestrian.
Yes.
Which I think in this day and age is just mad. And it does remind me of the sort of Alan Partridge bit of gristle hanging out of the very, very short athletic shorts. You know, when it just, I don't know, dodgy PE teacher crouching down to check to see what the matter is. And, oh, look, there's some skin hanging out. It's a bit of that going on. There's a bit of that going on with the pickups. And even the school buses, I was like, why? There's kids getting on that bus on the curb. And there's a massive 4-inch tailpipe pointing straight at them like a shotgun. What's with that? It's mad. But don't worry, because when I was in Orlando Airport in the toilet, I bumped into a guy who looked exactly like Harold Shipman. And I mean exactly like Harold Shipman. Oh. To the point where I nearly fell over.
You're not... I mean, I think he's certified dead.
I think he's dead.
It's not like you didn't discover where he's hiding.
No. But you'll be glad to know also, Rich, that when I went to the third Universal Studio Park, which is a water park called something to do with volcanoes, might be Volcano Hill, the very last ride we went on was one of those ones where you get in a huge rubber ring, 3 or 4 of you, shaped like a daisy, I think. And the guy right at the top of the control tower where you've had to walk all the way up to get in this bloody great thing, the guy, honestly, was Derek Bell.
Whoa, no. Sorry.
5-time Le Mans winning Derek Bell at a Floridian water park.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Did he have the same hair?
The same hair, the same nose. He was wearing kind of tangerine tinted ski glasses on. Ooh. And had a very soft, friendly demeanour. So I just presumed this is definitely either Derek Bell's Hispanic brother or it is Derek Bell and he's just putting on a slightly different accent.
But wait. Doesn't Derek Bell live in Florida?
Yeah, I actually think he does, or part-time lives in Florida. This is why my mind, because we were waiting there for 20 minutes, I was thinking, shit, maybe this is this is Derek Bell. Maybe he's just moonlighting.
Well, he's kind of retired now, isn't he? But he's obviously a man who's lived his life at the limit. He's going to be bored just mooching around at home. So, yeah, I bet once the park's closed, he's trying to set a PB down the big slide in a pair of extremely skimpy Speedos, full 70 spec, but with Porsche livery on them, obviously.
Oh, of course. But do you know what? It was so nice because he was really, really friendly, and he was obviously managing.
Well, Derek Bell is really friendly. I've heard this from many people. So
I'd love to meet Derek Bell. I've never met him.
But we've sort of stood near him, haven't we? So
we stood near him about 4 times in my life, and I feel like every time I stand next to him, I probably become a slightly better man. But I don't exactly know how. It sort of Bluetooths me good gentleman vibes. Sweet SSG, actually, probably top 10 SSGs could be.
I think in with a solid shout. Yes, absolutely. Now, this episode of Smith and Sniff is sponsored by our friends at Pistonheads. You know Pistonheads.
Yeah.
It's that website about cars. They've got news on there. They've got the big forum. But also, of course, people sell cars through Pistonheads. I browse there myself all the time. And they now do auctions as a way to sell your car. So they suggested to us that we each pick a car that is in a current or upcoming auction. And you can decide by going to pistonheads.com/Smith and Sniff which of us has chosen more wisely or interestingly. So
I've been snuffling around. I've been snuffling around the PH auction house, and I have found a car. And I'm bringing to the table this week a 1995 BMW M3 Saloon. So E36 breed.
I saw this.
Yeah, finished, as they say, in Avis blue. Desirable hue. And this is, I'm going to say this is a very desirable, clean example of the mark, because it is. And what I love about the E36 is the fact that for a long time it was seen as the slightly grubby, dodgy brother of the M world. And now, according to, I was at Munich Legends fairly recently doing a shoot, which I won't talk about yet. But they had an M3 E36 in on the ramps, a customer's car. And I went, oh gosh, this looks in good condition. He said, these are the hardest M3s to find in good condition. He said, if you want an E36 M3, you've got to look so hard to find one that hasn't been completely ruined, because they were a tramp drift car for so long.
Oh yeah.
And they hit that point of being so cheap, and because they took such a punishing, by very nature, there's not many around now that are original and surviving in good condition. But this bad boy here, it's done 160,000 miles, which is high, but it wouldn't put me off because it's been in the current ownership for over 26 years.
I was just looking at the ad, and this is the bit that it's only had 2 owners.
Yeah.
And it's being sold by the second owner, which is incredible.
It's brilliant.
But also 160,000 miles. The ad says that it did 90,000 miles in its first 3 years.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
Someone enjoyed this car to its fullest in its early life, but then it's had a sort of more sedate time, because it is almost 30 years old, this car. So it's so 160,000 miles is not actually terrible. And, condition, not mileage. I just look at that. And it's also the fact it hasn't been messed with. It's got the proper mirrors. It's still got the amber indicators on the front. It's just all there, isn't it?
It's all there. And what's cool is when you go into the auction, you can click on, you obviously look at the interior, exterior images, but then you can click on documents. And when you click on documents, you get lots of detailed close-up pictures of the service book. And it's had such a comprehensive service history, which again is one of those things where you go, yes, it's on a high mileage, but do I really mind when it's been so fastidiously maintained? I don't have an issue with that whatsoever. So I'm down with this. And what do we all think about 4-door M cars? Because of course this is when M3s were still called M3s.
Well, that's the thing. because that was the E36 was the first time that the M3 became a saloon. I mean, in fairness, it was only the second M3, wasn't it? So it's early in that model's life. But I remember at the time just thinking it was really cool as a saloon. I can't explain why, but I've always preferred an M3,
a fast four-door,
over an M3 coupe / M4.
I think this is interesting. Does anybody ever refer to the E36 as the first 6-cylinder M3?
They don't, but I mean, in a way, this sort of set the M3 formula, didn't it? More than the E30. E30 was, sort of quite strange homologation special 4-cylinder, different bodywork to the car it was based on. It was much more of a homologation special, and so this was where BMW went, actually, the M3 could be a permanent part of the range if we get our act together. So yeah, this is sort of Genesis, really.
Yeah,
and I would have chosen this as my contender this week, but my eye was turned at the last minute.
Oh.
It's a 2001 Maserati 3200 GT in silver with a red leather interior. Now, I love a red leather interior. Also, because it's a 3200, it's got the original droopy LED lights, the boomerang lights they're sometimes called, on the back. Which
I like the droopy boomerangs.
I didn't used to like them so much, and now I've grown to really like them, because when they facelifted that car and gave it sort of more normal rear lights, because apparently Americans didn't like the droopy boomerangs.
And they're the biggest market.
And they wanted, yeah. And I sort of thought, okay, yes, it's less sort of deliberately weird now. But with the benefit of 20 odd years, I look at the back of this car now and go, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And such an elegant bit of design, and the lights that replaced it are perfectly fine, but they are a bit sort of normal and not exotic. And those thin curved lights are really sort of exotic on this car.
I think they look great, but also history tells us that sometimes the cars that weren't very popular at that moment in time, especially sports cars or performance cars, end up being the ones that we gun for further down the line.
Yes.
And I reckon this, so this is what, 23 years old? Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's had 4 owners. It's only got 64,000 miles in. Now, the main thing that drew me to this is that it's a manual.
Oh.
A lot of these were auto. Now, I drove one of these with an auto, and the twin turbo engine with a bit of lag on it combined with an auto box, it wasn't great. They didn't seem very compatible.
I was expecting you to be a little bit more harsh than that.
All of those problems. Well, it was fine at speed. My memory was that it was really rubbish at low speed. It didn't creep very well because you sort of had all this slack to take up.
Yeah.
With between the auto and the turbo lag. It was a strange experience, but manual solves that problem at a stroke. So that's partly why I think this car is really interesting, and why I was drawn to it. Also, I quite like the honesty of the listing, because it sounds generally really peachy. The leather's in good condition. Apparently, it's got matching carpets with black footwells. Everything is in pretty good order, but then it does say slight sticky button syndrome. And do you remember, like Italian cars of that era, for some reason, I think they'd use some new technique, a sort of soft feel coating on the switches.
Rubberized coating.
Because Alphas and Fiat suffer from it, but so do Ferraris.
Yeah.
And, Ferrari and Maserati were part of the same group at that point. And so, yeah, it's got slight sticky button. I gather, because my brother has suffered this in his coupe Fiat, that there are ways you can sort it out. So it's not terminal. But I admire the honesty and the slight stickiness on the buttons. But otherwise, this thing sounds mega. And the red leather interior just seals the deal for me. So this week, I mostly am choosing a 2001 Maserati 3200 GT manual. If you would like to look at either of these cars, we'll stick up some links to the Pistonhead auctions. And if you go to pistonheads.com/Smith and Sniff, it'll take you directly to the forum thread where we debate these things. And we'll pop in there every so often to see how it's going. You resoundingly won the last one, by the way. I think everybody liked that 911 way more than the Vanquish.
Well, they're totally different cars, but also interesting. And I've noticed the two cars we've chosen this week have almost the same 0 to 60 score, or 0 to 62, should I say? Score. Yeah. I don't know why I've just said it's a score. So yours is 5 seconds exactly, and mine's 5.2. So off the line, if you were there and I pulled up next to you and we both had 3 pedals.
Yes.
And we both have, I've got a 6, you've got a V8. We actually would probably be quite even Stevens. You've got a new clutch, so your bite might be a little bit better than mine.
Again, one of the attractions of this.
Yeah, one of the
no clutch worries in early ownership.
And I might let you take me at the lights and overtake me for simply so I could see the first car with LED tail lights.
Yeah, it's worth it for that. I don't know which one would sound better. I'm going to say the Maserati, but there's not much in it.
They're both cool, actually.
Those straight 6 BMs sound fantastic. Well, there we go. Anyway, those are our Pistonheads auction picks of the week. Moving on, before I forget, a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about this photo that was in the Sunday Times of the Grand Tour presenters with the original photo of them in sort of 2003, where they were wearing incredibly boot-cut trousers.
Yes.
And then a sort of mirror image where they'd flipped the photo and then photoshopped the presenters' heads as they are now onto their old bodies.
Why would you do all of that?
I have earth-shattering news. That wasn't Photoshop.
What?
They recreated that photo and they got the presenters to find as many of those old clothes as they could in the backs of their wardrobes. And where that wasn't possible, a stylist combed the country to find matching clothes.
No way.
I was staggered when I found this out. I'd not heard anything about this photo shoot. But then I started noticing, and actually I put it on our Patreon, and patrons started going, that's not exactly the same photo. Jeremy's shirt's untucked. And they started spotting little details. And I thought, okay, they've used as their base photo just a different shot from the original photo session, just to create a little bit of difference. But then it did start to sort of seem more puzzling. And then I think somebody said, maybe they've used AI to create a few little differences to make it, just to mix it up. And I was like, but why would they do that? And then I found out from the editor of the Sunday Times driving section, they recreated the photo with the presenters.
I can't believe that.
And then I was talking to James about it, and he was like, a stylist had to find us matching clothes where we didn't have the originals.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, but Hammond's head looks like it's on a funny angle. And it's like, no, he always looks like that.
That's his head?
Yeah, that is a real photo. They recreated it.
Well, bloody hell, I'm really amazed.
I said to Nick, the editor of the section, I was like, God, I mean, I'm genuinely amazed by that.
It's a silly amount.
I made more of a fuss about it and made some kind of comment about how it was a recreated photo, because otherwise everyone like me would have assumed it was Photoshop.
Now, I went to watch a basketball game while I was in the States because I like basketball. It's one of the few sports that I do really like. And
who did you see playing?
I went to the home of Orlando Magic at the Kia Center Stadium. And they obviously Center spelt Center.
Yes.
And we watched the Indiana Pacers, who were really good. It was a seriously close game.
The Indiana AMC Pacers.
Exactly. I did. That's all I kept thinking in my head, but I couldn't really share it with anyone because I don't think anyone would have given a flying toss. But yeah, I did think to myself. I actually, to the point where halfway through the game, when people were stopping for beer and sausages and whatever else, popcorn, I just thought, I looked at the Indiana Pacers shirt colours and scheme, and I thought, that would actually look quite good on a Pacer. Like that pair of stripes in those colours. And I started to almost configure it in my head. And then I thought, what are you doing? You're at a really exciting sports game and you're configuring a car in your head. And it also made me miss having a Pacer even more, because I do wish I'd never sold my Pacer. But anyway. But there was a player for Orlando Magic, and his surname is Suggs with 2 G's.
Does he play in a very jerky way?
No, he doesn't. But I looked at how, if you've ever gone to a professional b-ball game, you'll see how unbelievably perfect and polished the court is. Like, it's so immaculate.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, imagine if actual British from Madness Suggs just suddenly turned up at half time and ran full tilt onto the court. He'd probably be wearing sort of leathery, pointy shoes, I would suspect.
Yes.
Which I guess have no grip at all on that kind of surface. You might as well have just run onto an ice skating rink.
He's going over.
A bit like people who drive MX-5s in the snow on summer tyres. You know, you got that level of kind of grip and control. Goes to grab
My girl's
mad
at me. Oh, he's going
goes
over.
to shout, "My girl's mad at me," and completely misses the microphone and just goes careering into some VIP guests.
Like that man I saw in the BBC canteen once, face planting into a drinks fridge due to a loss of control on a slippery surface. I've told you about this. I'm like, yeah, he was also very smartly dressed, sort of classic, sort of old school BBC producer type. And he went slightly too quickly, hurried up to the till to pay for his lunch. Like, got a sandwich and something in his hand, and he just went, and he went forward, but he just you know, the sort of low drinks fridge that sits between 2 tills. He just went head first into it. It was the most. It's one of the single funniest things I've ever seen.
Did you hear the ABS footwork going? Did it go da 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 da?
I didn't. I'm not even sure the stability control had a chance to kick in. I think someone must have spilt some water or something, because it was a tile floor. But he just went. He went so quickly and so dramatic. It was somehow weirdly reminiscent of 10-pin bowling, because his pleasant BBC producer's head caused bottles of Oasis and Ribena to sort of scatter either side of it like pins.
Oh gosh, that sounds great. Not for him, obviously.
No, I mean, the main thing for him was a loss of dignity. I don't think he was physically injured. It was just the dignity that was irretrievably damaged. But
well, the other thing that my take home from that game, which I thought you'd appreciate, is, T-shirt cannons.
Yes.
Well, I think the Americans probably invented the T-shirt cannon. You fire a tightly rolled T-shirt into the crowd. Everyone's happy.
Did you actually see this in real life then?
What, a T-shirt cannon?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a T-shirt cannon revolver. So this, I've got photos to prove that I wasn't imagining. In fact, I might have taken a short video, which I'll share with our patrons, our lovely, sweet, sweet Patreon people. So there was a T-shirt cannon revolver, and it was so heavy and massive, it was on its own trolley with wheels.
Oh my God.
And it would just so obviously, like a minigun, a T-shirt minigun, it would fire and then revolve, and then another chamber would engage. I think it had 10 T-shirts in the revolver section. Jesus. And one of them, it came out with such gusto under the compressed air. It shot straight into the air and went through the rafters of the stadium and never came back. It never came back. And I think the guy operating it, I think, probably looked at the assistant, and they turned the pressure down. They thought, no one's going to receive T-shirts if we keep firing those out. It was amazing. It just went up and went through whatever was up there and just never came back. And a bit of confetti came down, and that was it.
Oh my God. See, the reason I'm asking if you saw it in real life is because American listeners will be going, "Oh, you poor, sweet, naive child." But I sort of half thought maybe T-shirt cannons weren't real anymore, the way that wrecking balls aren't, because people had realised they're dangerous. Because all I can think is that that's the way that Ned Flanders' wife died in The Simpsons, getting hit by T-shirts fired from a cannon.
From off of a cannon.
And I thought they were just something that existed in cartoons these days, but that's amazing.
No, it's real. And I've got evidence. And it was very exciting. I was hoping to try and catch one for my son.
I was going to say, you didn't have any luck with...
No, I've caught a T-shirt before from a Canon.
Have you?
Yeah, at Santa Pod Raceway. And my daughter's still got the T-shirt. She loves it.
Wow. Okay.
It says Santa Pod Raceway since 66.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, okay, well, every day's a learning experience.
Maybe some other listeners have experienced a T-shirt Canon success.
I would, yeah, I always wondered if it sort of creates a bit of a frenzy, and that in itself is sort of a bit unsettling to be in the midst of a sort of clamour for a cheap T-shirt. But
well, maybe we could take one to one of our gigs, Rich.
Yes.
What do you think?
I'm not sure that the crowd's big enough, but hey, why not?
I think it's too powerful.
We could make our own out of an old prop shaft off of Bedford TK or something. But that's actually very useful that you've mentioned our live shows, because as you may be aware, we have live shows coming up.
Yeah,
we are at the Mini Factory in Oxford on Thursday, the 28th of November. Where we'll be doing usual hour-long live podcast recording. We'll have a little break, and then we'll do probably an hour of answering audience questions in the room. And we'll be milling about in between, chatting to people and doing what have you. If you can't make it to Oxford, try this on for size. We're doing County Durham, the Aston Workshop and Car Barn in Beamish on the 18th of December. So bring Christmas vibes. Hopefully it won't snow immensely like it did last time. Everyone in a rear-wheel drive car had a horrible time trying to leave.
It did. It was very, very snowy last time. Very Christmas.
It was very snowy. But hey, surely that's not going to repeat itself, because it's only December. Oh, well, anyway, it may not. It's a lovely venue. We were there a couple of years ago. We had a wonderful time. Hopefully, it'll be a little bit more favourable weather-wise. And then, next year, 6th of February, we're in Eastbourne. Details of all of these live shows are on our website, smithandsniff.com / actually, I don't know what the address is. Go to smithandsniff.com. There's a button that says live shows at the top. That'll help you out. And while you're there, why not buy some of our merch? We've got 2.2 T-shirts and hoodies and caps, and Spec D design is going very well at the moment. People seem to like that. What else have we got? Loads of stuff. And we're going to add some more as well. So go and buy some
We've got what we call
merch.
the classic stuff. So the classic...
yes.
Logos. I was wearing CMTMB while I was in the States, you know, Rich.
Oh, that's it, CMTMB, yes.
I was representing, as they say.
I wore, it was a balmy day a couple of weeks ago, and I wore my 2.2 T-shirts around fashionable London town. And due to a miscalculation on my part about how long I'd have to go back to my hotel and get changed, I ended up going straight to quite a fancy restaurant wearing it. And nobody turned up their nose. In fact, I'd like to think people gave it an admiring glance or two, because it's a cool design. So go to our website, smithandsniff.com, buy some merch, and then you can wear it when you come to one of our live shows in, this month.
In November or December or February.
Yeah. And there we go. All right, well, that's enough plugging, apart from what I'm about to do in a minute. But let's bring this into a close by saying, first of all, I have 3 things to tell you. They are: one, Jonny is engaged in a fascinating project to build himself a new house that's equidistant between a limestone escarpment and our favourite female singer's country mansion, so that he can tell people he lives between a rock and a Sade place. Oh, God. If that's not to your taste, because it's a fucking terrible pun, then there's always the Late Break Show. Lots of excellent videos on there. What have you got coming up?
What have I got coming up on that side of things?
On that side of things and all that.
What have I got? I can't remember. Oh, I know. Yeah, I've got. You were the one that's gone out just before people are listening to this. If they're listening to it on Monday, will be a fantastic, even though I say it myself, barn find. A one owner from new Mercedes 190E Cosworth.
No.
And I get to meet the lady who bought it new with her husband in 1989. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, I know. Great, hey?
Oh, there we go.
That was a really fun day. I enjoyed that one. And so that's that on that side of things that nobody ever says.
That's fab. So go to the Late Break Show on YouTube, watch that, watch some of the old videos, watch everything. Clear your diary.
Yeah, do it.
Second thing I've got to tell you is we've got merch and some live show tickets, but we've already covered that, so that's great. And the third thing I have to tell you is, do you know Emily Bronte? You've heard of her, the novelist.
Yes.
Do you know how many novels she wrote?
No.
1.
What?
Wuthering Heights was her only novel.
Why didn't she write another?
I don't know. I haven't researched this enough.
Did she die early?
I was... Again, please don't ask me any more questions because I don't have the answers. I just saw this the other day. I was like, Wuthering Heights was Emily Bronte's only book. And you just go, but hang on, what, really? And I can't think of any other sort of extremely well-known and enduring authors who are essentially one-hit wonders.
You didn't have a second thing to mention. So
I'm going
to
got something.
I'm going to quickly mention the fact that as I was flying back from my holiday in Florida, another egg hatched. I actually have another tortoise.
Oh my God!
I'm speechless. Luckily, my nephew, who is house sitting for me, he sorted it out and gave it some food and drink and things, and it's good. But so I have another tortoise. And the other thing is I watched a little bit of American television, and this was a troubling advert by a company called Mighty Mendit, who are glue manufacturers. They advertise their glue being so powerful and good that they glue together a slit parachute and then a bloke jumps out of a plane. which
also,
I just couldn't believe I was watching it.
I'm going to describe people as a slit parachute from now on.
Is that like a pair of
sleeves? Slit parachute.
Yeah, what a slit parachute. Yeah, that guy Suggs from Orlando Magic. Yeah. So there we go. That's
excellent.
That.
Well, that's that. Done and dusted for another week. Top quality content. Thank you for listening. We'll be back on Friday with another Ottersot and the following Monday with another show. Until then, goodbye.
Cheers, mate. Thanks, mate. Bye.
So you've enjoyed this podcast, but you've had a thought. Is there a way here today that you could show support? Well, you could join our Patreon, what wonders that it brings. Early shows and extra notes on that side of things. You could buy our merchandise, we've mugs and hats but still no ties. One day we will make those pies, but in the meantime, guys, hey guys, like and subscribe and maybe leave a nice review. Like and subscribe, we know you know just what to do. Like and subscribe, we don't want to take the piss. Like and subscribe, but we were told to ask for this. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Gosh, my nose is running. I don't know why. Just the right
Have you
nostril.
got Malergy?
Just like a short journey tailpipe.
Oh. Never-ending cold. You always seem to have. Chew.